Alongside our director, Scott and Craig Bunn at the NHL Draft Combine in Buffalo, New York. We were just talking to Gavin McKenna, and he was showing us his tattoo on his arm, which basically he described it as the story of his journey, of how he got here, looking back on his family. I'd like you to share your thoughts on not only his own personal journey to that point, but his journey as a hockey player over the last few years that you've been watching him pretty closely.
Well, let's talk about the personal journey really first. And I think with Gavin, he talks so fondly about his roots and his family, talks about the cabin that he went up to with his grandfather hunting moose and all the things. And all the players talk about how instrumental their families have been in terms of their path to the NHL. And Gavin's no less so there, and it's really important to him. But when we talk about the on-ice journey, which also includes an off-ice journey with respect to the hockey playing, post World Junior Tournament, I was so impressed with Gavin's maturity, just in terms of how he handled things, and acknowledging that, hey, I was lacking a little bit of confidence and I had to regain my confidence. But even on ice, watching how he understood what his teammates were at Penn State and how to get the best out of them, and then by extension, how that would help the team and elevate the team. That is a really good learning experience for any player. But Gavin to say, hey, listen, it was frustrating for me a little bit in the first half. It was a little bit harder than I thought. But to understand, here's what I got to do to be at my best, which is really how do I help them be at their best. I thought it was just fantastic. The spotlight on them, understanding that there's going to be criticisms, understanding there's going to be some ups, a lot more than downs, but how you handle it. And we can tell players, and players can talk about, oh yeah, I can handle the pressures. But until you go through it and understand, okay, what does that mean for me? How have I gone through this process? I've just seen tremendous maturity in Gavin's whole on-ice and off-ice approach to understanding, hey, the spotlight's only going to get brighter when you get to the National Hockey League.
And he shared with us the fact that not only was his home base in Whitehorse in the Yukon, he actually spent a big chunk of his life, 4 hours north of that, in the family cabin. And I asked him about the fact that, hey, it's a long way from there to potentially, if the Toronto Maple Leafs take you first overall, to be playing in the market of Toronto, which comes with a lot of pressure. How do you see him making that transition, if that's the way they go?
There's a lot of cabins 4 hours north of Toronto, so it won't be any lack. A lot of good areas to explore in the wilderness and everything that goes with it. He won't be able to moose hunt in Toronto. He will have to go north like he did with his grandfather and family and hunting moose. But again, you put yourself into a situation and you understand better. I mean, he left Whitehorse, came down to Kelowna to play in an academy, went to Medicine Hat, went to Penn State. So all these little steps along the way give you a better understanding of not just what environments you're in, but also of how you're going to handle them. And I talk about the hockey maturity. These are all lessons, and everybody can say, how are you going to handle Toronto? Oh, no problem, I always dreamed of playing in Toronto. But you go through it, you have support from the group, and then now you know how to handle it. And you also know what your resources are in terms of some of the challenges that he may have had in any of those moves that he had as he's progressing up the ladder. He'll have some challenges as he moves to the National Hockey League. Having a really strong support group in place will only benefit him and the team that drafts him.
I'm not going to ask you to do a mock draft right now, but I'm going to ask you for some insights. So let's assume that Toronto does take Gavin McKenna first overall. Now the Sharks are on the clock. What direction do they go with that pick? Do they look at an Iver Stenberg? Is that where they're looking?
Well, I think they have to look at an Iver Stenberg, but at the same time, you look at how many excellent forwards they have, young forwards they have. And, you know, I tend to go look at what would be a nice fit for them. I mean, Iver Stenberg would be a nice fit for them. But I look at Sam Dickinson, a top pair left shot defenseman. I see Chase Reed.
Looking for a partner?
Yeah, you know it, Gino. You talk about bookends, Chase Reed, who's a right shot, top pair defenseman, and the offense that he adds, and understanding that those forwards, they need to get the puck. They need to have some support from them. And I think that, like, considering where they're at with their good young players, now the San Jose Sharks may say, hey, listen, this is the best player by far, and we're not going to just go off. But I think Chase Reed, if I was in San Jose, Chase Reed would be my focal point.
All right, if it goes that way, then we got Vancouver Canucks are on the clock with the third overall pick as it stands right now, if they keep that pick and don't move it. Caleb Malhotra is a projected top 5. The son of new Vancouver Canucks head coach Manny Mahaltra. Caleb says, hey, it would be exciting, but we would behave on a professional level. Do you see a fit between those two, and do you think that could work?
I'll answer the last question first. I think it can work. I think you have to understand the dynamics of it. It's not just father and son, coach and player. It's also the dynamics with the rest of the team.
Right.
You know, how Caleb fits in. But Caleb has been in a situation where his father, Manny, has been there like forever and understanding how to handle it. He's also got a wonderful uncle in Steve Nash that can help him navigate through some of these things. And I think as long as you understand what the dynamics are and you understand how that could work, then I don't see any issues with them drafting Caleb Malhotra at all. You got to be comfortable with it. Secondly, maybe first and most importantly, this is a really good two-way center.
Right.
And I look at the Vancouver, they're screaming out for this type of player in their prospect school. They drafted Braden Coots last year, really good player. Malhotra, to me, he just projects as that guy that's going to do so many things for your team, offensively, defensively. And when you're trying to build out your team, wingers are nice, centers are critically important to success.
And so much more valuable when it comes to a draft because they're so hard to get a hold of. Let's go now down to number 6, where the Calgary Flames are sitting right now. What do they need? What do you think could be available to them? Where do you see a fit there?
Yeah, well, let's keep in mind that the Calgary Flames have a lot of picks. So, you know, we look at the 6th pick, and what do they need? They need more skill on their top end of their forward group. I don't think anybody, the Calgary Flames included, would say anything different. But the draft affords you different opportunities with different types of players. So, could there be a center? Let's just say that 3 of the guys, McKenna, Stenberg, and Mahaltra, are not available at 6, right? So now you can look at it, okay, does Vigo Bjork fit there as a center? I think he's a terrific center. But now you got all these defensemen. So if you start to talk about Chase Reed and Carson Karls and Keaton Virov and Albert Schmitz and Daxon Rudolph, well, if it goes like that, then 2 of those defensemen for sure are there at 6. I think really good defensemen, project as top pair defensemen, and now you can't overlook those guys. They're going to have to make a decision. It's not like, well, we'll take the guy that we had. They're going to have to make a decision at 6, and they're going to make a decision on really good players. And I think it'll come down to fit and what they feel is a really good opportunity for them. I mean, just for an example, they have Zane Parekh. So I talked about San Jose with the bookends. You know, take Chase Reed, be a bookend to Sam Dickinson. Well, maybe you take a left shot defenseman to be a bookend for Zane Parekh. But at the same time, you can't overlook any player that's a right shot defenseman that you think is better. So this is the interesting, not a dilemma, it's an opportunity to really build out your team, and they're going to have more opportunities in different parts of the draft to add other types of players. I think other than Vigo Bjork, who I love, but at the same time, if they feel one of those defensemen is better, they're going to have to make a choice on one of them.
And with that, it's a wrap from the NHL Draft Combine back in Buffalo in 3 weeks' time when the actual NHL Draft happens here June 26th and 27th.